Welcome to Paranormal Heart, a place where people can talk about their paranormal experiences. With your host, Kat Ward.
Welcome back, folks, to Paranormal Heart. I'm your host, Kat Ward. You can find new episodes on the second and last Sunday of each month on Podbean, YouTube, FringeRadioNetwork.com, and any place you find fine podcasts. If you've had paranormal encounters you'd like to share, you can either be a guest on the show, or you can submit them in writing, and I'll be happy to narrate your story. And if you'd like to have your very own free Paranormal Heart podcast sticker, that was a little tongue twister there, just drop me an email at paranormalheart13@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to mail you one wherever you are in this beautiful globe of ours. This episode shout-out goes to you amazing listeners in Switzerland. I appreciate your support and for taking the time to listen to the show. Thank you so much. Folks, I have a new segment for your listening pleasure. The ladies at Unearthing Shadows Paranormal will be featured in each episode. They'll be discussing their favorite pieces of equipment they used during their investigations, how to use them, and do's and don'ts in paranormal investigating. I haven't chosen what to call this segment yet, so for the time being, it will be called Paranormal Heart 101. For the first Paranormal Heart 101's first segment, here is Andrea Bailey, founder and lead investigator of Unearthing Shadows, with her paranormal tips. Enjoy.
Hi, this is Andrea, the founder and lead investigator of Unearthing Shadows Paranormal, and you're listening to Paranormal Heart Podcast with Kat Ward. Welcome to the segment of Paranormal Heart 101. So I've been studying the paranormal as long as I can remember and really dove into all aspects back in 2012. And at the start of our team in 2013, I took it a little further. And one thing I quickly learned is that there is no manual on how to be a paranormal investigator, which means you have to work very hard at being credible and jump on a very steep learning curve. And there's quite a bit that you need to figure out yourself. So my best advice to those starting out in the field is take some time to really understand what you're doing and why. Don't just watch a few paranormal shows, look on a few websites, and surf the social media, then consider yourself an expert, because you're not. You're doing yourself and others a disservice, and you'll just get yourself into trouble. So once you understand your intent for taking this path, and assuming that you have prior knowledge of the paranormal, the next step is to gain some fundamental knowledge on the equipment that you're about to use, the science behind it, and technical aspects of these devices as well. You need to thoroughly understand how your equipment works, what will break it, how it will be affected by other devices, and environmental phenomena, and so on. So in today's day, everybody is a pro on their smartphones and seem to think that's a credible investigative device to take with you, and it's really not. Learning a bit about the science such as lens flares, EMF, light refraction, and how sounds travel, etc. will be a game changer for you, and it will come in handy if you are simply relying on your smartphone, but I really don't recommend doing that as a primary device for you. So now that you know how your equipment works and that you're able to back up your claims and how you can break testing these things out so you can debunk. This is key in assisting with your reputation of being a credible investigator. Plus, it will help you gain more evidence and help you know how to look for it. So 3 questions that we were given, beginning with, what is your favorite device and why? Well, my favorite electronic device is the K2 because it's simple, it's easy to use and understand, it's fun and it's interactive. It's pretty easy to tell when it's working properly and when it's not, and it pairs really well with all of your other devices. So I'm quite a fan of that one, and I always recommend that. That's kind of one that anybody throws in their investigation kit. My other favorite device is simply my camera, and my proper camera, not my phone camera. Always having it with me and ready to take a few shots or video always leads to interesting and unexpected finds, and it's a great backup to any device responses that you're getting. And one piece of advice that I have with that, however you're taking any photos, don't just take one. Take a minimum of like 3 to 5 series of the similar shot, because that way, if you have an anomaly in one, you can kind of look back and see, well, what changed? Was it movement? Was it still like what were we capturing? Like it's really crucial to take more than one snapshot. Question number 2, what are you most skeptical of and why? Oh, well, there's a few things, but lens flares is probably one of the top ranking ones. Few people really understand the workings of your cameras and your phones and your video recorders and so on, not realizing that the lenses have a coating on them, and that with light refraction creates lens flares. So these are all too commonly known as what we think are orbs, but they're actually false orbs. So normally it will show a red or green or yellow type orb that looks very kind of creepy and out of the ordinary, but it really is just because of light and the coating on your phone or your camera lens. What investigative technique do you enjoy practicing? Oh gosh, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to give just one answer here. Dowsing and pendulum practices work really well with me, and I know they work without any questionable influences, because I am the one handling the devices. And you can't lie to yourself, right? Your intent is either that these things are working properly, or your intent is that you're manipulating it. And I know when I'm using these devices, I'm not manipulating anything, so I can validate that these are working properly. They aren't affected by other electronic devices. And it's really interesting to me when the responses on the dowsing rods and the pendulums match what we're capturing on the electronic devices. So that's very validating for me. I also really enjoy venturing off with myself, my camera, either a spirit box or a voice digital recorder, or both. This is something, though, that I caution. I don't really recommend that anybody goes and investigates on their own, just because no matter how safe we try to be, we're still dealing with unknown energies and entities, and just in case something were to physically happen to you or energetically affect you, it's always good to have a minimum of 2 people. So I do highly recommend minimum 2 people. That lecture over. But I like those moments of being in the quiet, being vulnerable, and it's just you, a one-on-one communication with you and the spirit that's there, and that you're able to hopefully get some responses, and then with your camera, able to get some, you're able to capture some photographic anomalies that may match the possible voices, or supporting the evidence that you're getting right there. In addition to this, I have found some creative ways to capture this phenomena with my camera that is done in a way that you can't falsify. So I'm really huge on backing up my claims and making sure that there is no way that any of the potential claims or evidence that we're capturing can be falsified or manipulated, or really I want to give evidence that people can't question, that they're just like, oh my gosh, that's pretty solid evidence. So that's one of my ultimate goals, and I always suggest that when anybody else is investigating too, just do things in a way that you can back up anything that you're doing and understand what you're doing and how you're doing it. So thank you to listening to this episode of Paranormal Heart 101, and hope you found this enlightening. Take care, folks.
Thank you so much, Andrea. Episode 69, my special guests are consultants to the paranormal societies from around the world. Archbishop Plato Angelakis teaches, gives lectures, attends paranormal events, and has appeared on many podcasts. Archbishop Angelakis presently presides as Archbishop of the Holy Order of St. Michael, the Archangel, Archdiocese of the Mexican National Catholic Church in Canada. He is an exorcist in communion with the Sacred Order of St. Michael the Archangel in California since 2013. He's enrolled in the Exorcism and Prayers of Deliverance course at the Vatican Rome. He holds several BA and Doctorates with Bible Colleges and Seminaries. And if that wasn't enough, he's also a registered critical care nurse. Sister Keeyah Lynn Frances is a member of the Mexican Catholic Church of Canada. She is an empath and clairvoyant who has been certified as a mystic by the Church. She's also a member of the Order of Exorcists and is an auxiliary exorcist. She was a white witch prior to her conversion and has vast knowledge of the occult. She is also a Reiki Master and teacher. Sister Keeyah has also lived in a house with demonic infestation before becoming involved in the paranormal and has had several near-death experiences, also known as NDEs. Individually, Archbishop Plato and Sister Keeyah are a force to reckon with. As a team, I really almost feel bad for the negative entities they battle with. I give you Archbishop Plato Angelakis and Sister Keeyah Lynn Frances. Hello, Archbishop Plato and Sister Keeyah. Welcome to Paranormal Heart.
Hi, Kat. Thanks for having us.
Hi there.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm very, very excited for this because being in the paranormal field, this is something that I've never really talked about, and it's very important, I think. I've never had any form of clergy on the show before, so this is going to be a great, great topic. Thank you.
Great.
Who would like to start? Would you like to say a little bit about your background before we get into the nitty-gritty?
Sure.
Oh, sisters first.
Oh, sisters first. Okay, well, he knows who bosses him around. Let's just...
Yeah. There's no debate there.
Quiet, Archbishop. Your Eminence, hush.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so obviously you can tell that we are not exactly tight, straight-laced. We're a pretty relaxed pair. I converted. I was actually a witch for quite a long time. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I converted to Catholicism during the lockdown, like right around the lockdown period of time. I got a call to change and become a sister, and in doing so, it allows me to be more involved with the exorcism process. And I very much enjoy the old rites and so forth. Not that I don't knock paganism at all. I embrace all religions, and as far as I'm concerned, anyone that's praying to a higher power, that's a benevolent power, it's all the same for us. So I always say in my interviews, I don't care is on Sunday, as long as you're being a good person and have a good moral compass. And so we may not come across as tightly laced as some folks, but we're a little bit different in that sense, because we started out working together when I was a witch, and so it was kind of weird, the Archbishop and the witch working together. Yeah, but it worked, I used to say we got along like Catholic carrots and pagan peas, so.
I like that.
And, but I'm also an empath and clairvoyant. Well, I have all the clairs, so all the senses, as well, and have just realized that I can do psychometry recently, which I had a near-death experience in May, which is one of several. And usually when I have a near-death experience, I develop a new gift. So I think the psychometry was where that came from, because I had never really been able to do that. I mean, I did it with playing cards, but not with objects, I guess red and black. So anyway, so that's what I bring to the table, a little bit of everything. I'm also a Reiki Master of higher levels. I'm kind of in limbo between Reiki Master and Reiki Grand Master. And my lineage I'm proud of. From the time that Reiki started 101 years ago, I have in my lineage from Dr. Asui, who was the first. I am number 26 in the line of masters that have trained under him. Wow. So like direct lineage to the Mrs. Takata, who brought it to North America. And so I'm quite proud of my Reiki, and I use that to fill voids, raise vibrations, post-exorcism. I'll do it on the whole family, but especially the person that's had an oppression or a possession, just to kind of, like I said, fill the hole with positive where there was negative, and help, hopefully from them not calling anything back, any negativity back, which unfortunately some people do. So that's, and I'll do the walkthroughs, and I do reads of the people that we're dealing with, do readings and just call Father and say, okay, so this is what's going on, and they need to tell you a secret, and that kind of thing. So I use my gifts in many capacities, and then just help with the cleansings and the rites when they come about. I'll warn him if I think he's going to get clobbered. Not if I feel like it.
if she wants to be clobbered, she just won't say nothing.
Yeah, if I'm being rotten, I won't warn him that there's a left hook coming from something. Because you never know how someone's going to react during an exorcism when they're under oppression or possession.
Yeah.
So, but I'm pretty good with saying duck. So, well, look out for the puke. It's coming. Oh, the glamour of it all. Yeah.
Oh, God.
I'm also, so because of my gifts and because I'm part of the church, I'm actually deemed a mystic. So I have 3 archbishops that have validated me, kind of thing, like my legitimacy, and I have a seal from the church on a certificate that deems me a mystic, because they just don't use, it's just semantics in terms of using like I'm medium or clairvoyant or empath. They don't use that in the Catholic Church. So you're a mystic. So that's a big honor for me, and I'm very proud of that as well, because it's not a usual thing to have in the church. There's not a lot of mystics hanging around.
Yeah.
So, that's but yeah, so that's me, blah blah me. So who cares?
What a fascinating background.
Now.
It's a very fascinating background, because I was born and raised in New Brunswick, and I was raised French Roman Catholic, and we had a convent up the street from where I lived, and I was used to nuns, they're little old ladies, in the traditional garb and everything. And
I do wear my full habit out. I'm very proud of it,
Nice.
And it's funny, people look twice. Like I had one place I was somewhere, a policeman's like, wow, I haven't seen a nun since Catholic school when I was 6. And he was just like, holy cow, and Father was there too, and they just were like, oh wow, but we go out in our clerics, and it's funny, but I have to explain the difference between a sister and a nun. So a nun is typically on a convent, and they've taken major vows. So and a sister takes minor vows. So obviously I don't have a vow of silence.
Yeah.
And
Clearly.
I couldn't
get that. I negotiated that, but I didn't win a battle on that one. So.
You're so gonna get it next time I see you.
I love this kibbutzing. This is awesome.
Oh,
so,
well,
but as a sister, you don't get the silence. You're so dead meat.
No warnings next time, right?
Nope, that's it. You're getting a left hook and bonked on all over your sleeves. I'm just gonna watch it. I'm not even going to bring a bucket in the room. I'm just gonna let it happen. But yeah, so as a sister, I'm I can have a job, and actually we're independent Catholic, so we're not under the purview of the Vatican. Which many Catholics are independent Catholics. And so Plato's actually not just an archbishop, he's a cardinal elect. So he'll be up under, there's 5 in the Mexican National
Catholic Church. Yeah.
Church.
Yeah,
and Plato will be one of them. He'll be number 5, so that there's never when they take votes on stuff, he'll be the swing vote.
Yeah. Well, no. What it is really, it's a titulary. It's called titulary cardinal. It's basically a cardinal really without really any particular job. It's more of just an elevation. What it is in the independent Catholic Church, we don't follow the Pope. Obviously, we're recognized by Rome as being valid because of our apostolic succession. Again, my lineage goes, back. I can follow my lineage all the way back to the Apostle James. So James, laying hands on Jesus.
Yeah.
And, the Father sent me, I sent you. So, yep. You hear me?
Yes, I can.
You still there? Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So just like Jesus says, "As the Father sent me, I sent you, and you'll do greater things than I." And so Jesus, of course, he sort of laid his hands on the 12 apostles, and then those 12 apostles went forth after his crucifixion. And of course, this is where you get the lineage of all the priests and bishops and whatnot going forward. It's the laying of the hands, you being instilled with the gifts that God had given Christ. Christ gave all those gifts to the priests and bishops going forward, to be able to do the same things. Now, I haven't walked on water yet, but I'm working on it. But
he has water wings. He has water wings.
Yeah, I can't swim, but theoretically, we should be.
Good to know that you don't swim, by the way.
Yeah. I know you're taking notes. I know.
Yeah.
Take out the bishop. Yeah. Nuns who kill. I know. A new episode coming up next. But anyway, you can see we get along really good here. It's a love-hate relationship. But in all seriousness, that's what finds our legitimacy as an independent church. That we still have the apostolic succession. She can go back to the Reiki Masters. I can go back to the Apostle James. That's where my lineage comes from. But when you get to a level as high as I am in the Mexican church or the Ukrainian church or the Polish church, the Greek church, these are the independent churches that I'm speaking of, the Coptic churches. They don't have a pope. They have basically their high level is their cardinals and their prelate. They call them prelate, and they're the sort of just the head bishop kind of thing, and the cardinals. So we have in the Mexican Catholic Church, they decided instead of having one person in charge, they decided to have four. Instead of having one person take charge of the entire world, because Mexican National Church is spread throughout the world now, even in Canada and Europe, they have four cardinals, and then there's two of us that are called artillery cardinals, which are sort of like in the background as cardinals, but I was in charge of Canada, and I represent Canada, but if one of them is to step down or pass away or whatever, then we would fill that void. So there's one in New York, there's one in Texas, one in California, and there's one in Europe at this stage right now, the four that I speak of. The other one is myself here in Canada, and I have a peer that I was ordained with actually together, and he's down in Pennsylvania. So when the time comes and we may have to step up and take that role, then we will. But it's just basically just the elevation, and that's all that it really is.
But Plato is Vatican trained though too for exorcisms. Yes. He's got a great deal of besides having two PhDs, one in it's ministry and divinity, right? Your PhDs. And then he's been trained by Vatican, and then with COVID, he was.
She always brings that out. I never share that stuff, but she always brings it out.
You should be proud of, because what?
But I'm a man of the cloth. I don't care for pride.
I know you're not being prideful. Well, I'm sharing the fact that. So shut the cake hole, Your Eminence, and take your compliments. Silence. Where was it? What I needed? Yeah, I know. You should have put it in writing, dude. Sorry, you missed the boat on that one.
Yeah, I did. We'll have to renegotiate. No,
but when we walk in the haunted house, Kat, who goes first, right? Who's hiding behind who, right?
Well, she's the tallest one with the boots, so I'm usually the one behind her. That way, I just sprinkle holy water over her shoulder, and hopefully I get something. Literally. I honestly, in all seriousness, Keeyah's role in what I do is paramount. It's so fundamental. I can't boast enough about what she does and the gifts. I came across. Here she goes. Here we go. I'm sure right now we're on a video. She'd be blushing, waving her hand over. Whatever.
You are in so much trouble.
You two are a hoot. This is great.
Beware of the nun, and beware more of the nun with a stick. Bishops included. Yeah.
And you know what? Right now, Pat's going, why did I schedule this interview with these fools?
No, I love
This is
this.
a comedy act.
Neither of us have slapped,
no.
right? We're a little punchy.
Yeah, we're all night shift here. But no, you know, honestly, when I met Keeyah, she was a pagan. I mean, she found the mainstream churches to be a little disenchanted, not really meeting her needs. And of course, the politics was involved. That's another reason why I'm independent, because I just don't like the politics that's always involved in what we do. And you know, the mainstream churches tend to put everything under one umbrella. So you know, if you're a mystic, you're a Catholic, an empath, sensitive, whatever you may be, you're under one umbrella. It's called bad, it's called evil. That's what the mainstream churches will normally do. Where, you know, where myself being a little more esoteric, I can say, well, no, she's got a gift. And I go back to scripture where, you know, the Holy Spirit says, you will know me by my gifts. If you produce fruit, it's good. If you don't produce fruit, what you do, then it's not good. And you know, it's so that's what it speaks of. So you know, when I met Keeyah, she was a pagan witch. She had no problem. I mean, she always helped people, but she was good. She was good at what she did. She was bang on, and then we had an immediate connection. Like there was there's that connection where I say, okay, 'cause I've worked with mediums before and other sensitives, but there's this connection, and I thought, okay, and we just started to be able to work together. It really surprised me.
I think what kind of blew you away was the fact that most people can't read Plato. A lot of mediums can't read him at all, and I read him like a 5-cent comic. So,
she had me hooked, pegged, and line and sinker from the day one. I mean, there was no question about it. I mean, I work with a lot of them in the past. They're not as good as Keeyah. But you know, unfortunately, you know, it's how I function. I've always functioned. I've always used people's gifts. They go in, see what goes on. They're also, what's good about Keeyah is she's able to draw them out and get the story out. Like, I need to know the story. What really happened here? I need the who, what, where, and why of what is really going on in this home, and who's involved, and who's actually here. Are there children? Is it something demonic? Is it not? Earthbound spirits? What is going on here? And sometimes we're talking about intergenerational, of things that have been going on over a location that's been 500 years old. So there's many things that are going on or overlapping. So Keeyah is great at going in and saying, okay, this is a crapshoot here. This is what's going on here. We've got kids, we've got this, we've got that. And that allows me an opportunity to kind of get my game plan on. Okay, this is my approach, how I'm going to deal with it. And the bonus part of it all right now, that is the fact that she surprised me when she came to me and said, I want to be a Catholic sister. Like, I was like, what? Like, okay. I didn't ask her to be, and didn't make her be. And I said, sure. And she told me why. She said, because I want to be able to actually participate more on a hands-on, assisted me, actually, like she can actually lay her hands on people as I'm doing exorcisms. So she's a more hands-on. The nuns and the sisters that do exorcisms, they're a little bit more hands-on. They actually will pray together. They lay their hands over people, pray over people. So she wanted that particular component, which she couldn't do as a pagan witch. She can say, okay, this is what you're dealing with, and then she had to step back. And she was she told me she was always drawn to, I just want to get in there and just grab the demon by the neck kind of thing. I said, no, that's my job.
Well, I've had experience like I lived in a demon house, and so I've had experience, and that's before I was involved in the paranormal. I didn't bring something home. It was before I was a witch. I was not a dark witch. I wasn't, into any untoward happenings or anything like that. But what happened was, I think what happened is a near-death experience, and something caught on to me and followed me back. Like, it kind of, I was kind of poking the veil, and it just stayed with me and fed off me, and it was a mess. that was before I met Plato even. I dealt with it for years by myself. And when he walked in the house and
she invited me over. Well, let's step back. She lived in a haunted house, a really bad one, and she invited me over, because we made regular things to have regular discussions about things. When she invited me over to her house for the first time, I thought to myself, well, there's some serious stuff going on here. well, this is going to be a fun date. Thanks a lot, kind of thing, Thanks a lot, But of course, if you're going to invite your priest over to your house, you might as well make it good, right?
Yeah, right.
Coffee, tea, biscuits, and a demon upstairs in my bedroom that needs to be dealt with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Her bedroom was quite bad, actually.
He said a 4-letter word.
I said, yeah.
He said, "Who the F sleeps here?"
Oh, wow.
He had to study himself on the bed, and he said, "Who the F sleeps here?" I said, "Welcome to the Thunderdome." That was so. Yeah, so I always had that experience. When I say I have experience with demons, it's not like I, hang out with them, but I did live with an oppression. I never got to possession. Mm-hmm. Thank God, because it was trying, and it did get to a point that I was oppressed, especially when I tried to get it to leave. I had a show come in, and they were there for 3 nights investigating, and it kicked a hornet's nest and made everything worse. So I made sure my son was going to be away for weeks after, because I fully expected to have to wage war against whatever was there after, if they couldn't have, if it didn't leave when they left, kind of thing. And it was craziness. Everything that you see in the movies almost, and I'm so lazy. I'm writing a book. I have to finish. I have no excuse. I was locked in the house for a year and I didn't do it. Really? But but it was interesting because I did experience, as a layperson before I got into the paranormal, all shadow people, the clawing in the walls, windows breaking for no reason, paintings flying off the walls, things that would apport through the house, I used to use the playing cards to work on psychometry, and half the deck would disappear, and I would find it 2 months later, downstairs underneath a couch cushion, when I went to bed with it. Stuff like that. I would wake up with bruising. I got scratched. You name it, it happened. My son experienced it. Footsteps, drawers opening and shutting, pot lids rattling. But it really had ownership of, it wanted me. And it was very protective, and it didn't like men. And so when we were filming the show, the sensitive, intuitive, he calls himself, literally ended up unconscious in the dirt between the houses, and didn't know how he got there. Yeah. And it was not impressed, the fact that there was a male coming in. And I used to do automatic writing, and it would send me messages about, I can't use the words on air, that it would call me and say, and I would wake up in these really sexually suggestive positions, so it could have been dealing with
please share.
Yeah, well, no, I'm not gonna, but you know what I'm saying, and about 30 bruises on my legs, that looked like finger marks, not 1 or 2, it looked like I was grabbed and yanked all through the bed. And I think it could have very well been an incubus that I had in the house with other things. It was more than just one spirit in the house. So that was how I kind of cut my teeth on dealing with negative entities, was having to live it firsthand. And I was on my own. I didn't know anyone when it started. I didn't know what to do. I started reading. So, I started saging. I started using holy water, salt, black salt, white salt, pink salt, blue salt, you name it. There was salt everywhere. If you had cattle in my house, it was like a giant salt lick in my house. And, I would sage the place till it was like a hot box, you couldn't even see. I'd have to take out the batteries and incense and you name it. And it was just it kind of came to the point that it was like an impasse, that it was okay, I'm not going to mess with you anymore if you don't mess with me. And then after, quite some time, because I lived with that for a couple years, and then ended up in the paranormal, and subsequently met Father and had him come and do blessing of the house and a cleansing of the house, which was good. Get rid of it. So
that must have been terrifying in the beginning.
Yeah, really good. Yeah.
It's a date. I know. You're a married man, for the love of Pete.
I know.
You're an old married man.
No, she needs.
I am vibrant and young.
So am I.
So Anyway, that's how we got together in terms of working together, and you know, but our job, we joke, because you know what, it's just, you got to laugh stuff off. It raises your vibration anyway,
yes,
right?
Agreed.
And you know, it's good for us, and there's so much negativity in the world right now that anything you can do to raise your vibration is super duper. And you know, like I say, as people are kind of sucking right now, we need to be better to one another as we go through some really hard transitional times. And you know, but what we do is no joke. It's you know, it's dangerous. It's you know, it's, we don't get paid for it, like, you know, in the paranormal, Cat. It's all voluntary, like, you know, it's a charity industry, really. And,
well, we are the fourth largest volunteer organization in the world. The paranormal world is the fourth largest charitable organization in the world. We have more volunteers and people who do things for free than anywhere else. And you can imagine that. But it's been a horrible couple of years with the COVID, where you can't cross the border. That's supposed to open soon. But even with it being open, I don't think it's completely quite safe or ready to make that trip down there. I've been speaking to a lot of people in the States, and they're validating the fact that, you know, it's just not that good just yet. But the border at least will be open. So hopefully by going into the new year, we'll be able to start making those trips back down and get involved and whatnot. But, you know, I think what I realized with the COVID is that there's still a lot of Canadian things that we can do, a lot of help that needs to be done up on this side of the border, but you don't see people coming forward as much as you would in the States. So I'd like to see more the Canadian perspective, because, you know, this is all worldwide. You get it in Europe, you get it in England, you get it in Australia, and so I just don't find as many people coming forward on the Canadian side of the border.
What do you think that is?
I don't know. I don't think that the resource, we don't, for lack of words, not advertising, but I don't think they know where to go, what to do. So they see this stuff on TV. They see these shows on TV. A lot of these individuals from the States have actually reached out to me saying, well, you know, I've had a lady come to me with a case, but, you know, I don't know what to do with and how to handle it. You know, that person's a TV personality. He does his own show. He's like, you know, like Taps or whatever, and things like that. Yet they don't know what to do. They reach out to them because they're the ones who they see. We don't see a lot of Canadian content. I think that's hoping to change. I'm hoping to make that change. That we can start seeing some paranormal shows that are Canadian content.
Canadian.
Why not? I mean, this is why I want to have the interview with you, Kat, and then also, you know, if there's investigations that we can document and put online. We try to let people know on Facebook, you know, of things that we've done and that we are doing. And we get testimonials from people here in Canada, so that people can reach out and say, oh, you know, I am from Canada and I have a case. And, you know, that a lot of people I'm finding are, well, I just see American, and you know, and how am I gonna get someone from Arizona to come up here and help me out, you know, in downtown Renfrew or whatever, you know. You know, so there needs, or Pembroke or whatever, you know, there needs to be, you know, a lot more openness, you know, letting people know that this happens here too, a lot, and
it does.
Sometimes maybe even worse. Yeah, we have a lot of history up here, haunted areas, haunted building history of things that have occurred in Ontario alone. The entire, I'm sure out in the Maritime as well.
Maritime, for sure.
Yeah. So we need.
I'm a Maritime girl, So.
Oh, so am I.
Yeah. We have a lot of crossover.
Yeah. What part of the Maritimes?
I was born on the island. My dad's a Newfie, so that's quite the combination right there. Yeah, it explains a lot, right, Kat? You're like, oh, now I get it.
Now I get it. Yeah, it makes sense.
It's been hard though with COVID, because we've felt like we've had our hands tied and we haven't been able to help people as much as we would like to, but we do help remotely. And, you know, if someone's in a bad way, we can start them off with prayers. You know, Plato's really good to send people in need if we deem, you know, next stage, like holy oil and exorcism salt, and then you can't ship water, so they would have to go to a church to get holy water. But send that down so that they can do a cleansing. We kind of teach, you know, we're kind of teaching the DIY of cleansing in a Catholic way.
Yeah,
You
we
know?
like to empower people with things that they can do themselves, because they can do a lot of they can do a lot of this work. They can do a lot of the prayers, and they can do a lot of the spreading the oil around, the salt and whatever, and doing sort of little things as they're instructed to do. We've had a lot of successes without even having to go. They've already like nipped it in the butt, and they're on the way to recovery. So, it does work, because we just can't reach everybody. But I think people should take empowerment of themselves and know that you do have free will, and you do have divine spirit, and you can fight this back and set boundaries or do whatever, and tell people you're not welcome here. Move on. If it's an earthbound spirit, these are sort of the things that people can take control of themselves, because and if I had to visit everybody that called, I would never ever.
You'd never sleep.
Well, you wouldn't have you wouldn't have two pennies to rub together.
Well, that too. That's true as well. Though some of them do offer accommodations, or my gas or whatever, and that's fine. And we'll accept that. Because they also feel like they've contributed, especially if it's a really good outcome and they've gotten some success from it. They feel good about it. And so we don't do it for money. It's not about money. It's all about helping people, and it's a hard battle, because we'll save one, but then three more become afflicted. And so it's a losing battle right now, because evil is so predominant all over the world, and with everything's going on, and people's hardships with COVID and other things have brought out the worst in people. And like Keeyah says, we need to be nice to each other, but when you're trying to feed your family and you're out of work and you're frustrated, and COVID's there, and you've got restrictions, and your business is closed because the government says you have to close. Mm-hmm. It's really hard. It's really hard to be positive. It's hard to say, okay, well, everything's going to work out, but we don't know where we're going to get our next our meal. So it's really hard, and I can understand where it's coming from, but it's just a sign of the times. I believe we're in the end time, and this is all part of it, and this is a great testing for all, and not just for them, but for myself, for Keeyah, you, everybody. We're all sort of struggling to find ways to get by and make things work, and work out, make the ends meet. So all we can do is be that support for them, and empower them, so that they can move forward, because whatever they learn, they can pass on to other people and whatnot. So
exactly.
We're doing a lot more stuff online now, and doing teaching that way, as opposed to going and speaking at the Paracons, because we can't get to them.
I wish there was more Paracons here in Canada.
Well, nobody's invited us.
Well, I don't even know if there are any. I've never heard. Well, there was one that John Moore had about 3 years ago that I went to, and I was hoping that he was going to have that every year. But no, it's not big here like it is in the States.
No, it's not. It's totally different. I was at that one, Kat. So
you were.
I was supposed to be there, but I couldn't make it. But but I did meet up with Michelle DeRoche, who was there, and she did bring me on board for a little while, but her approach is a little bit different than what I'm sort of the way I want to do things. So we parted ways nicely, obviously, and we're good friends still. But I did help her in quite a few cases, but she takes things in a different approach. She's more investigative and whatnot. Yeah. As opposed to, and then I would do some of the cleansing, but a lot of that didn't get. In all fairness, a lot of that didn't get posted. A lot of that didn't get spoke of. She said, well, I brought, Father Plato in, we did a cleansing, blah, blah, blah. And then she would sit on a stool and she would talk about, I'm a paranormal, expert, blah, blah, blah. We talked about a certain case. They reenacted a lot of things. But at the end of it, how do we help the client? Mm-hmm. But that wasn't spoken. So I found that just wasn't fulfilling enough for me. My part of it is I want.
She's wonderful, by the way. And
she is. I've met her, and I've had her on the show too.
She's great. Don't get me wrong. She's wonderful, and she's got a clairvoyant that works with her, and I worked with her, Amelia, initially when before I left and did my own thing. And I said, just like to me, I just need to spread my wings out more, and so I ended up going more stateside and joined the NESPAR and the other teams that are down there, and then the Paracons started happening and whatnot, and that's the whole premise. Like when I go to a Paracon, I stand up and I'm telling people, specifically people who are in the investigative part of the paranormal, like what John does, and trying to tell them how to protect themselves, what to watch for, when to ask for help, when to know when you're over your head, those sorts of things. And then, of course, let them know that there are people out there with wonderful gifts that they need to be utilized, especially in these teams, that can be a great help. And I was trying to foster an environment where I want to welcome, and they were taken back by it. Here's a Catholic priest, a bishop who's welcoming people who have pagan gifts, for example. So, but it doesn't matter. But they're sort of sitting in the background in the corner in the closet, saying, "Well, I don't want anybody to know that I'm an empath, or I'm sensitive, or I'm this, or I'm that." I say, no, if you got gifts, cultivate them, get out there and help people, and if in doing so, we're all part of the battle, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the kind of culture I'm trying to cultivate. Is that no, I want you out there. They're like, well, especially when I was out in Michigan, they're like, their eyes are all wide open, saying, "Really? Yeah, Johnny, go for it. If God's giving you a gift, then embrace it and go with it, because with the gifts comes the power and the support that will open up the right doors to get you in the right places to learn to even be better and stronger and be more helpful, because and like she says, we have to help each other. Well, helping each other means using whatever gifts you have and resources to be able to help people. So that needs to happen. But again, a lot of people are just hiding in the well. I don't want to do nothing. I don't want to say anything. I want people to think I'm crazy. I don't want anybody to get in trouble. And so a lot of these gifts just get suppressed. They're not embraced. They're not accepted. The gift is not accepted, and it's wasted. So I try to open those doors up for people and say, it's okay. It is okay to do that, provided that and then of course people who are into Reiki, that they're trained properly. There's just a lot of mistraining, a lot of missed opportunities here, and that's all I'm trying to do. And I couldn't do that with Michelle, because Michelle was more go in and do a case, and then she put it on TV, and then it was basically the storyline, and that was it.
You just have different paths. That's all. It's just
yeah. I was just thinking those exact words.
Yeah,
you read my mind.
Yeah, well, like I said, we still friends. She does her own thing, and I just needed to move to a different direction where I'm trying to cultivate those other things that she doesn't touch upon and doesn't that's not her forte.
Well, a lot of what's being put out for people is they don't see what they don't. Okay, a lot of people obviously. Well, I don't want to say obviously, but a lot of people don't believe in the church, right? Mm-hmm. Anymore, and attendance to churches is down, not just because of COVID, like overall.
Yes.
And let me tell you, when I converted from being a witch to a sister, I actually had people that didn't want to be friends with me anymore because they thought I was stupid and it was a joke and religion was a joke. And, it was really it was kind of like being a witch was more accepted than being a sister. And being a sister was very frowned upon by a lot of people, and which I was kind of not shocked by, but I figured there'd be some blowback. But it just goes to show you how things have changed in the mainstream, as to what's acceptable and what's not. I mean, years and years ago, you couldn't talk about paranormal stuff. They'd think you were crazy, and now look at us talking to you on the airwaves about it. And talking about exorcisms, openly, and as if and with what we're doing, yes, we want to teach people. We want to make sure they're protecting themselves for investigators and stuff like that. There's a lot of things that we want to do, but basically it's teaching and helping. And, and we use the paracons as opportunities just to do exactly that. Plato will do a lot of blessings when we're out and bless objects for people and such like that when we're meeting people. So we just kind of use those opportunities to help when it's not a boots on the ground case. But we would like in the future to do some work that people actually see real exorcisms being done. And understand that what we're doing is not a joke. It's a lot of work. We might joke around, but it takes preparation. It doesn't happen overnight. We don't just come, holy water blazing and throwing salt, into a building, and that's the end of it. There's a lot of work the people are screened for mental health issues because, that's important. They're screened physically, because again, it can be hard on the body, and we do a health history, on people, because I want to know if you're diabetic. You know, if you pass out, I want to know what's going on with you. We're both registered nurses. We've both done trauma nursing, so we also bring that to the table in terms of, again, incorporating it in our toolbox when we're helping people. You know, and I like checking blood pressure and oxygen saturations and heart rates and, you know, all that sort of thing, and knowing when a person needs a break during an exorcism. Some of them are easier than others, obviously, but like we want to, like, because we're independent Catholic, we can film. The Catholic Church, like old school Catholic Church, would not film. A priest would not be granted permission to film and record an exorcism for public consumption, sort of thing. But we want people to see that and understand the rite, like, because we use the old rite when we're doing it. And I think people would be interested in it. It's a different approach, you know, than some people use in terms of cleansing, and that's okay. Whatever works, you know, whatever you believe in and whatever's going to keep you, you know, safe from negativity, I'm all for it. You know, but we do want people to understand that, you know, it's like, I mean, the last one that we did, I had a pretty big, like, tether with the person, I call it. And so, like, our kind of, like, we were really crossed together, and basically the whole time this person cried, I was bawling too, like, uncontrollably, because of being an empath. Like, I couldn't stop. And I mean, I was ugly crying, and they were recording this. And this was because we consult with NESPAR, we consult with PPRI, which is a Canadian. They do Canadian and Eastern US, but they do Maritimes in Canada. So we just signed up, well, you know, to consult with them, religious consultants, same as with NESPAR and Lorraine Warren's group. And, you know, anybody else that needs us, you know, we're independent contractors.
Yeah.
You know, just go where we're needed. But yeah, we want people to see the real thing, and that, you know, that you never know how it's going to go. Plato's been attacked with someone, you know, with a big, huge knife during an exorcism. They broke restraints and had to call the police, or you can just have them that they're pretty quiet, where they idly, like, threaten to stab him in the throat, but nothing physical actually comes of it, you know. So I think people might be interested in seeing what something like that is really about, the way we do it anyway, actually. I mean, pagan cleansings, whatever. But just speaking with us in terms of doing that, you know, that's something in the future we'd like people to see going forward. Because that's not the same as, like, going to a haunted house with your flashlights and doing investigations and stuff, right? It's kind of like part 2 or part 3 of the process, right? And everybody in the paranormal field gets that, but lay people don't get that, you know, and they're not seeing that, what goes on, and the effects that people have when they're dealing with negative entities or oppressions or possessions, you know. And then you get a lot of people that ask, like, is the Exorcist real? Is that a good sort of idea of what happens? Well, everyone's different. I mean, aside from the neck spinning 360, because that would sever your spinal cord, you know, a lot of what happens in that movie, it's terrifying because it's real. And people in the paranormal that have seen that understand that. Lay people might just think it's all just movie bull crap. And of course, based on a true story usually means that 5% of the movie is real, you know, and 95% is embellished for entertainment value. But there is a grain of truth in those things. And, you know, but The Exorcist, it's terrifying. I don't like to watch it, actually, because it bothers me. It's too real, you know, it's too real. And it was well done, and that was kind of the big first thing that opened people's eyes to it, right? Like, that's the big movie that, if you're thinking of exorcism, that's kind of the one that everybody's seen and is terrified by. But yeah, a lot of that's real, so that's scary.
Yeah, my daughter loves horror movies, and she's never seen that movie. And my husband and I are adamant, like, we don't want you watching it in the house. I just don't feel comfortable.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. It totally lowers the vibration. It's, you know, and it's terrifying. You know, it really is. And there's another one, I can't remember the name of it, but when I was watching it, like, I felt sick. I shut it off. I'm like, no, it's too real. I don't need to see. This isn't entertainment for me. It's real life. So, you know, I don't, you know, I've dealt with oppression. My son had an oppression, you know, that I had to get a Eucharist in that child, you know, and get what was in him out of him. And it was because they did that. It wasn't long after I became a sister, and it was kind of a warning shot, if you will. You know, what better way to upset a mother is to come after their child, right?
Exactly. If they can't get to you, they're going to go to what's closest to you, what means to you.
Yep, you know it. And because he does have gifts, and he's not as, you know, he hasn't had them for as long. Obviously, he's still working on controlling them and protecting himself and stuff like that. That, you know, it's easier. He's an easier target than I am to get to, right? Like, and unfortunately, something was in him, and like it was scary. There was the two of us home here, and it got really bad. And I thought, oh my God, like my own child might punch me in the face. And he's 6'6".
Oh,
you know. I'm 5'10", but still, he's way bigger than me. And trying to put holy water and holy oil on him and doing the prayers, and he was cackling and laughing, and he's like, the demon's laughing at you. It was terrifying. Wow. You know, and it was real life and my own child. And I thought, oh my God, like, you know, hold it together.
Yeah.
And I shoved a Eucharist in his mouth, and he gagged. And he gagged, and he gagged, and he gagged. And I said, you know, I prayed to God that it would stay in him and evict whatever was in him, and it left, and it never came back. But it was pretty terrifying, you know, as a mother to go through that with a child. So
thank God I've never experienced anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know yourself, you're sensitive, so we attract stuff like bug lights. So,
yeah, exactly.
You know, we have to be so careful, right, and fortify the house basically, and you know. But I don't know about you, but I still get stuff in the house all the time. Like
I sage. You know, once the energy starts feeling strange and people are cranky in the house, you know, people just want to or you start fights, you know, arguments, and it's like, okay, it's time to sage, and then everything just feels so much lighter afterwards.
Exactly. And I still sage, and that's fine. It's acceptable. The church uses incense, and sage is interchangeable. You know, it's not wrong for me to use sage as a sister, you know, if people would question it. Like I was talking to the Father, and I are both part of the Order of Exorcists, and I was talking to Father Ron about stuff, and he asked, do you have, you know, sage in the house with you if you don't have incense, you know, and he's the head honcho for the Order of Exorcists. So anyway, but so teaching the child to protect himself is quite important in my life.
Definitely.
And thank God that hasn't happened again, because it was pretty scary. So, but yeah, I totally agree with you. Anytime there's been fighting in the house, saging it or incense is really a good idea, and just cleansing all that business. And if someone's been sick, actually, people don't know this, but sage smoke is antiviral and antibacterial too.
Yes.
So
I knew that, but I never use it after someone's been ill. I never even thought.
Yeah, especially if someone's coughing, I'm like, burning, running around with the stick in the house, like, germ-borne germs.
You get the Buckleys and the sage.
Oh my God.
So can you walk us through a little bit on how, I know it's different from case to case, but when someone first contacts you and you know you need to do an exorcism, are you able to walk us through a little bit of what happens?
Yeah, Father,
go ahead. Take over this one?
Yeah, go ahead. I've been blabbering.
Do I have your permission, sister? Can I speak now?
You may.
I'll be good. Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. All right. Anyway, no, you know, this is a process that might take 3 months, or up to 3 months, or you know, or as long as it takes. Basically, someone comes to us with a case, and you know, we immediately start to investigate, and that can entail a paranormal team going in and getting some preliminary camera work, ghost box, whatever, EVPs, whatever, and kind of get that sort of physical evidence. Then, of course, there's extensive interviews that have to go on. History of the home, history of what went on, and every member of the family gets interviewed. So we try to put the pieces together. This is where Keeyah becomes very fundamental, and going in and sort of getting the spiritual sense of the home, and she'll be able to say, okay, there's something definitely here. This is what I'm picking up. This is the kind of, and because and Keeyah gets right in, and she'll start crying. She basically starts to feel what is the emotions of what's actually going on, the trauma, whatever might be going on, and into this location. So we kind of get all that information put together, and then we interview the people involved, and then we'll start with we want to rule it out that it isn't like schizophrenia or something else. So once we kind of rule out, okay, there's definitely something going on here, then we start to give the clients homework, because we want to see their intent. It's very important that we get a consent. Without a consent, we can't do anything. And it's a spiritual consent. Like, I want this thing gone. Or there's people that said, I want this thing gone, but deep down in their heart, they don't. And then it doesn't work, and we're wasting our time. I need to have that consent. That's paramount. That's a Vatican train number one rule. You walk in, what do you want? Okay, and do you want this? Yes. Then we proceed. I got to have that consent. So once we get that okay, we start giving them homework. We start spreading oil and salt and water through the entire home. We give them prayers to say daily, go to church, or any church that's Christian, a Christian church. It doesn't have to be Catholic. And we get them to a practice. We wanted to get them to start changing the way they live their lives, really, is what we're trying to do. Because, it's not like, Keeyah and I go in there and waving our magic wands, just like Harry Potter, and, bibbidi bobbidi boo, and it's done. That's all we really do, is we go in and take back the free will somehow they've lost. But the journey is theirs, and they need to be able to carry on after we're long gone, like forever. So it's like, changing your ways, doing family prayers, going back to church, not dabbling in something, getting rid of things that you shouldn't be doing, doing the things you should be doing, and like vice versa. So we get that process started. We will eventually end up coming to the home and doing a full cleansing, but they've already done the prep work, and they've already got the good habits, which I've seen, because they'll have to prove to me, because there are people who haven't done anything we've asked them to do. So I'll say, well, you want things done, but you won't do things we asked you to do. So how do you expect this? Well, we just want you to come and fix it. Well, it doesn't work that way. It's your journey. It's your issues. We've got to get you to start changing your way and moving forward. I
want the demon gone, but I don't believe in God. And it's like, that's how we work. So if you don't believe in what we're doing, and you don't believe that there's a God, then how can you grant consent? And sorry. Exactly.
And they want to go back to their practices, right? They want to go back to their vile practices, whatever they're doing that is causing the problem to begin with. So, it's all that needs to be investigated. It's vetted out. Again, then we put the medical component in there. With Keeyah and I being medical professionals, we review medications. Can you handle an exorcism? Do you have a heart condition? Are you diabetic? Are you this, that? And because while we're doing the exorcism, we do vital signs. We monitor and vital. And if your blood pressure is going to jump up 200 plus, systolic, we need to say, okay, we need to stop and back off and give this person a break. So, there's all that needs to be taken into consideration. We do a complete medical review. We want to know what's going on, any preconditions that you may have, and things like that. So that part also needs to get done. Then, then we need to interview the rest of the members of the family, because there might be someone in the family that is bringing the problem, into the home. I did a case once out in Grimsby, Ontario, and we went through the entire house. We couldn't figure out why this stuff was keep coming back. And I was with Michelle DeRoche at the time, and it was the grandfather that lived there. He was very quiet about things. He didn't say anything to anybody. He just participated, whatever. But until I'm very thorough, so I went through the entire house, the barn, the sheds, like you name it. I go in crawl spaces, I go in closets, I go everywhere. So I ended up at sort of like the grandfather's man cave out in the garage, and he was a Mason. He was a true Mason and a practicing Mason, and that, so basically his heart wasn't into it. So the fact that he lived there, it was very hard to cleanse that particular location, because he kept bringing this stuff back. So we need to interview every member of the family and whatnot. So it's a whole family of event. It is just one person, because one person will affect the entire family. Then, of course, we get them to do all the preliminary work, the homework. Keeyah being Reiki, practitioner will do post-exorcism Reiki, because, like the Bible says, you have to fill the empty space with something good. Because once I cast that out, there's an empty vessel there, or an empty space, and if it up, it's just quite clear the devil or the demons will return with 7 worse demons than itself. So that's where Keeyah comes in, does the post-exorcism Reiki, which can realign the body, get their solar plexus or whatever back into place, and get that positiveness back. And then we leave the family with a bunch of oil, salt, water, enough to make a Greek salad, if you may, and off you go, with instructions on how to do it, right? Meals at home, kind of thing. So, and
a few black olives.
Of course, there's follow-up. Then there's follow-up. I mean, we follow up a week later, a month later, how things going, any problems, any concerns. And a lot of times it's a roller coaster. We've had some bad days, some good days, but they're definitely on the mend. So this whole process, 3 months, 4 months. So it's not like, we just go in one day and do our thing. We really stage, and we want to set up the client for success. So we do everything that needs to get done. So when we go in there, we know exactly what we're doing, what the expectations are, and we know how to approach it, because every approach is different. And again, we go in with the premise that we're going to succeed, and we always do, because we want that to happen. We're not coming back. It's a one-time thing, right? So that's the process, really, in a nutshell. I mean, it can be a lot more detailed than that. We may have to go into history. We may have to, move people from the family home. We have to find out what they're dabbling in. We need to make sure that everybody's on board. One member of the family could throw the entire the thing into chaos and not be successful. I think that we did an exorcism for with Nespar in New Jersey, and I remember Keeyah going through the home and went to one of the daughter's bedrooms and noticed all these sort of little trinkets hanging up. I think it was all pagan sort of.
But they didn't. They were just wearing them as jewelry.
No,
it wasn't anything untoward. But I had to check, right? Because a lot of teenagers do stuff that their parents don't know about. So there could be a teenager in the house that's playing with spirit board, which is a tool of divination, and divination has been around for like ever. And so that includes like dowsing rods and pendulums, and it's not just the one and only way to open a gateway kind of thing, or invite things in. But kids will do that, right? And their parents don't know. Sometimes we have to pull a kid aside and be like, so are you? And I'm like, don't be afraid. If you're a Wiccan, or if you're like, just tell. I just need to know what you are. Where you're at. What's your head?
I've been to a home where I was doing the home, and as I was going through the house, and I did this with the show Roshi actually, way back. I remember going down into the basement of the home, and all of a sudden, there was a curtain there, like it was an unfinished basement. So it was sort of like a curtain to make it sort of like a space. And I always pull the curtain because I want to get every spot in the home. And there I'm looking at a Reiki table. I'm looking at a Reiki table and crystals and all this stuff. And of course, and I'm not a crystal specialist by any means, but I know enough to know that there's a ton of different crystals with color, the different types that probably shouldn't be in the same room at the same time. And I'm thinking, okay, well, this may be where your problem is, so that you're not practicing Reiki appropriately, maybe you weren't trained properly. You got a ton of crystals.
Some people don't even understand it. Like, it's not the crystals themselves, Plato. You know better than that. They hold on to energy, right? Like if you're looking at obsidian's like a vacuum for energy, and if you're not properly cleansing your crystals, you're holding on to certain ones hold on to negative energy a whole lot more.
But the point I was trying to make is the fact is that she's the one who's saying she's got issues, that she doesn't know what she's doing, she's being oppressed. And I'm thinking, okay, well, if you're in that state where you're in trouble and you need some kind of spiritual help, maybe you should hold off doing Reiki for a while. How's that? That was my point. Yeah. So I was thinking, I guess, because we know Reiki is, Keeyah will tell you, right? I know enough to know that, you're laying your hands on the individual, around the individual, and you're sharing the energy, you're sort of taking the energy from them, and you're sort of shifting things around. Well, if you're not in a place yourself, you shouldn't be doing this, because you might be picking up negative things from that individual that is looking for help, and then now it's your problem. It becomes your problem, your issue. So, that's where I was coming from with that. It's I'm thinking, okay, well, that maybe you need to put a stop to this first, and let's get you back on track, and then you can maybe reach out to that later or visit that later. So it's just you need to get down to the bottom of what's going on and why things are not working for certain people when they should be. So it's there's always a story behind everybody and everything. So and every member of the family is included in that process, because there may be one person that doesn't really think they're doing anything, and they are. Again, we talk about intergenerational ties. It could have been there's a whole bloodline of people in that family that maybe has a history of things that were going on back in the 1800s that might need to be addressed as well. So we look at everything. And again, this is where I have to boast that Keeyah knows her stuff, and Keeyah can go walk in, and she can get the story out. She can draw out what's there, draw out the story, put the pieces together, and give me like a really complete picture of what's going on, not just some half-assed, part story which doesn't complete, the situation, and leaves me sort of vulnerable, because I don't know, am I going to be able to get this out of here when I don't know what's really going on? I end up using. I go in, and if they're Catholic and they're up to it, I will do reconciliation. I'll actually sit down with each member of the family and have confession. Of course, I don't share what I hear, but a lot of times what I do hear, bingo, I found what the problem was, right? And maybe a history, maybe it's something that they've done, that they've confessed, and I give them absolution. I give them, anointing of the oil. I give them all that, but they get that sort of resolution. So I do that prior, but at the same time, I get the history of what's going on. Of course, I don't share anything. I'm free, so I can't share that. But it gives me a really good idea of what it is that I'm dealing with, or maybe I get to the why. Having said that, on the flip side, Keeyah might have already picked up on that particular thing. And without even having a confession, she's already sensed that part. And sometimes, although I can't say that's what it is because it's a confessional, I've seen Keeyah actually hit bang on with what's going on, and she can do this remotely. She doesn't even have to. She can say, "Well, we're going to a case." I let her read the text message I might get or the email, and then she'll say to me, "You know what? It's real. There's something there. I can feel it. It's a guy. It's this. It's that." And we haven't even gone there yet. So, and she does this all the time. So again, an individual that has that kind of gift that you can work with really makes the outcomes awesome, and we know that we can go in there to be successful in what we do. I'm
not a medium. I don't see dead people, and I'm so cool with that. That's fine by me.
Yeah.
And God bless the ones that have that gift, because I don't know if I could handle that one. But and then after, that's the starting point, and then we go in and we work from the outside of the house into the house in terms of doing the blessing. And even the animals are anointed with holy oil to protect them, because it's a living vessel that the entities can jump into. Right?
And the land. I'll put salt outside. I'll do salt outside of the property.
That's what I'm saying. We start outside.
Yeah. I give them medals to bury on the ground, in the four corners. So don't tell me where they're buried, because and they can be removed. So we just bury them in secret places all over in the ground. Bless the ground. We work our way in, and we're very thorough. We don't miss anything.
Sometimes we have to do a funeral because a graveyard is on the property.
They're desecrated,
and it's been desecrated over 200 years. Right.
Yeah.
One of the last cleansings we did, that was one of the things. There was actually two graveyards on the property where there was old headstones, and the house was 200 years old, but they'd been desecrated. So a funeral is part of doing the. It's actually a subcategory that we have to do to.
Yeah, I'll do a re-funeral, like a miniature funeral, which reconsecrates the ground, and then then those souls are at rest, and then then I can work my way through whatever else might be there. So as I'm dealing with one and dealing with and tackling one problem at a time, so that and then the whole thing is very thorough. So there may be multiple things that are going on there, depending on the age of the home or the involvement that people are in. I remember doing one with Michelle as well. No, actually, it was with John. Actually, I did it with John Moore. Actually, it was out in Kentville many years ago. A beautiful gated community. I mean, and it was all hush hush, and because they're embarrassed because they live in a nice community. But in the back was some desecrated ground, and all I did was stand in the back there and just do a funeral, for an hour, and then everything just cleared up. So it might just be a simple, just putting things back into place, back into alignment and spiritual alignment. So
Have you ever had it happen where you reconsecrated the ground and everything was fine after that? You didn't have to do anything further?
Yeah. Actually, that was one case in Kentville. Actually, I remember.
Okay.
Pretty much. That's all that was required was basically the ground, the property, and things just completely resolved. There was nothing else that needed to be dealt with. So, that's definitely one of the situations. So,
kudos to you two, because everyone knows I'm a paranormal investigator, but I have never experienced anything as intense as what you two experience and tackle, and I'm okay with that. If ever I'm if ever I need the backup, I know who to call. But I really don't want to have to deal with that.
Well, it's not a glamorous job.
No.
This is where people say I'm a demonologist and I'm this or I'm an exorcist. I'm that, and they profess it like it's like some great grandiose title, and it's a dirty job. It's a dirty job, and unless you have a calling for it and get the support of God and all the blessings that go with it, it's not something that I recommend people doing. It's not a title that should be glamorous by any means.
No.
And of course, that's where I tell paranormal teams, when you get to a situation like yourself, Kat, if you come across a situation where you think, okay, this might be something like of that nature, that's where it's time to reach out to someone like us and say, okay, we're going to step back, because this is like But there's some teams that just go right at it, and they say, well, I've seen this on TV, and da-da-da.
Yes.
I was at Paracon in Upper New York State there a few years ago before the COVID, and one guy in the audience, he had to ask a question, saying, well, if I watch a movie like The Exorcist, 1975, the original, will I be afflicted? Would I have it? And I said, well, my first thing was, why are you watching the movie? Is it for entertainment purposes? What's your intention? He says, well, I'm a paranormal investigator, and I want to know what to do if I ever come across a demon. So by watching the movie, it's going to give me instructions. Well, that's not.
It's a movie.
100% accurate.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So again,
that's scary, right?
It is.
It's dangerous. It's dangerous, and it's irresponsible. So that's important that paranormal teams recognize when it's time to call in some help.
To me, it's like a surgeon.
This guy wants to take it upon himself, like to add that component to his team in New York, obviously New York State. That he says, well, I want to be able. In other words, what he's trying to tell me is that I'm a paranormal investigator, but I want to do more and not have to call anybody. I want to be able to actually tackle the problem itself. You're ill prepared, and obviously, if you're using 1975 movie to teach you, well, the movie was fabricated, to a big degree. It wasn't completely accurate. It was based on a little girl, not a little boy rather than a little girl. So the real story was based on, it was a little boy that was possessed from a theatrical mom, in the same area. The staircase, things like a lot of things were added. Like just a lot of it wasn't there. A lot of the exorcisms were done over and over, but they were done in Kentucky and they were done down in Louisiana. The child was actually moved several times. If you really look at the real story, but the movie itself was pretty accurate as to the actual ritual. The holy water, the power of Christ compels you. That's pretty accurate. But again, to look at that and expect that you can just go out in there and do the same thing and be, it's very dangerous to say the least. But again, that's what I got. I'm just shaking my head, thinking, okay, well, I'm saying no, wrong answer, kind of thing.
Yeah. Red flag.
That's not what it's about. You need to call it the. I mean, if someone comes to you and says, sorry to tell you, but you've got a lymphoma, or you got a cancer, or you've got a kidney stone, or you got a problem medically. You're not going to say, well, I'm just going to go home. I'm going to watch YouTube, and I'm going to have this removed myself. No, you're going to see a doctor, right? You're going to go and see a specialist. You're going to get. Even the doctor will tell you, I'm going to send a consultant. I'm going to send you to a specialist, an oncologist, or this or whatever, right? So it's the same sort of thing. you have to look at it from that seriousness, that it's, that the spiritual and the mindset of people, it's a serious component. In the Eastern countries like India and Pakistan, they take exorcisms very, very,
very seriously.
And the medical professionals,
Latin America too.
Yeah,
South America.
They actually, and doctors down there will actually like incorporate that as part of their treatment. And and even in the Arab world that's not Christian, they do exorcism, they actually incorporate that with their healing. So there's a lot of people that take this really seriously, and it's part of the their plan of care for an individual. But some people think, oh yeah, well, I watched a few movies. I think I can do this. Well, no, it's not. The outcome is not the same. This is a movie, and so this is where I really emphasize people. If you have a calling, great, embrace it, learn, and go with it, and let God sort of teach you. God's your teacher, and you learn as you go along. I made mistakes too. I've learned along the way, but I'm better for it. But I certainly don't get my information from whatever. I'm not part of Rome, but I've taken courses from Rome because I have an awesome Vatican University that have great courses that I can take, which I've been allowed to take, and it was hard to get in, but I got in, and I'm able to actually get some really good investigative teaching tools and assessment tools to see whether it's medical, non-medical, and then going forward with a bunch of other things and things to watch for, and so from that perspective, it's great. I mean, I'm not part of them politically, but the courses are really quite good. So that's to me is
they actually do allow lay people. The Vatican does allow lay people to take it, non-clergy, but they're only training about 250 people a year worldwide. But they are putting an emphasis on training more exorcists because of the need that is out there. So lay people can take the course if they can get in. Like I said, it's only about 250 spots for the entire world at a go, and learn from it, almost like kind of auditing a course in university, right? Mm-hmm. So,
well, it's just for educational purposes. Most of them are, some of them are journalists, some of them are other individuals that want to learn about it, and they go more into depth with more of the psychological things and whatever. But because there are a lot of priests that need to deal with some of this stuff, but not necessarily be an exorcist, like an actual exorcist, but actually deal with the psychological. And when a person comes to a priest and says, I'm having some problems, at least that person I know understands, okay, yeah, I can see there is an issue, where can I direct you? And a lot of lay people, it's just more of educational. It's they continue doing studies to find out where most of the exorcism being done. In the last course I took, they had some specialists come on, a couple non-clerical scientists have come on and saying, okay, Australia seems to be a growth in Australia. There's certain countries there's a rise in certain, so they try to figure out why in certain areas and not in other areas. So there's a lot of research that goes on behind the scenes that people don't realize, and they try to find out why certain areas are more predominated, having more affliction than other areas. Is it ley lines? Is it and they talk about that. The ley lines, is it environmental? Is it historical? Is it just cultural practices? So they really wanted to know what's going on and what works and what hasn't worked. The other priests have come on, other exorcists have come on, so the specialists have come on and say, I found that this has worked. I found that worked and that didn't work. And so they're always completely revamping their practices and their rituals and whatnot. And they did speak about paranormal. They actually did speak in depth about people who are trying to be paranormal investigators and trying to do exorcisms on their own and whatnot. That discussion did come up, and it's very much frowned upon, and only because of the dangers and whatnot. That just can't have multiple people just running amok of everything and just running around. There needs to be a lot of structured practice, ritual in place, an investigative process that needs to be, so that's what I adhere to. Is that when it comes to that part, I will follow their rules, because as a Catholic, I will do the Catholic ritual because it is specific. Even though a lot of people are not Catholic, that's the one that I use. That's the ritual that I use because that's what I am. And the Greeks have a different ritual. The Arabs have, the Muslims have a different, even though they're not Christian, they have a different exorcism ritual. The Jewish, they have a different ritual. There are different rituals around the world that are spiritual cleansing and exorcism type, rituals. I use this one because this is the church that I'm sort of serving to. But there are other people that do other things that are not, church related. People say, well, I've cleansed homes, whatever. Well, if you have a gift and you're not part of the church, but you're just a Christian, well, if you have the gift, then, that's fine. But again, we really got to be careful about who's actually doing this and who's not doing this, because you can make it worse. You can harm yourself, you can harm the client. Yeah, and the clients were I worried about the most. The clients really are the ones that you leave alone after you left, and the place is actually worse. You kick that hornet's nest, and then you leave, and they're like now they're in much worse trouble than they should be. And so, I guess what we're trying to teach, we're trying to through you and your interviews and whatnot, and getting people out there to listen and say, this is not a game by any means. It's dangerous. People have died. Priests have died. Clerks, lay people have died. The clients have died. There's been injury. There's been investigative work. There's been criminal charges. It's not a game. And it's to be done properly and appropriately. For example, if I'm exercising a woman, I want to make sure there's a woman present because of dignity and of course, like a doctor. Like a doctor will ask a nurse to come in with him if he's going to do an examination on a woman. It's common sense. It's dignified. It's respectful. These things need to be adhered to. They actually spoke about these things at the Vatican, at the course. That these are some things that need to be addressed. A doctor, if you think a doctor needs to be present, then call a doctor so the doctor can actually medically observe this person as they're going through this process. So there's an actual doctor in the house that can actually intervene if something goes wrong. But you need to make that determination. Do you need a doctor? Or maybe you're not medically fit and you need to go and get yourself medically cleared, make sure that your heart you're okay, you're on the right meds, you're on what, before we proceed. There's lots of precautionary things that need to be taken into consideration. It's not simply just going in, waving your magic wand and just saying, I'm a demonologist, I'll take care of this, and it's wrong. It's just totally wrong. And it's people's lives. These are real people, real families, real jobs, real financial hardships, real social issues that they're reached out because they really need professional help, like you would if someone came to you and said, you've got a medical problem, and you're gonna talk to the doctor. Well, please send me to a specialist, someone who knows what's going on. Even a doctor, a regular practicing family doctor, knows to say, okay, this is beyond my scope. I'm sending you to the pain clinic. I'm sending you to an oncologist. I'm sending you to, nephrologist. I'm sending you to, someone who actually deals with that and who's going to be able to give you the appropriate medication. I'm going to send you to a psychiatrist, for example, because I'm not a psychiatrist, and they can monitor your meds, and then you can monitor your pills, and they can monitor, whatever your kidney function and things, because that's their specialty. I'm going to send you to a pediatrician. Sure. So I don't deliver babies, but I'm your family doctor. I got you, a pediatrician who's or someone to help you with the birth, whatever. You'll go through the whole process. You want to breastfeed. You go to your family doctor, but you're going to send you to a breastfeeding clinic. Someone who knows what they're doing. But it's no different than what we do in this particular field. You want to go to someone who knows what they're talking about.
And you know yourself, Kat, out there. There's so many people that label themselves as paranormal investigators, and it's not like we'd have a licensing that we have to go through to deem ourselves paranormal investigators. So even people, I would say to people that have a problem, if you're going to have a paranormal team in your house, don't be afraid to ask about their experience. Who's going to be there? How many times have they investigated? You don't want the Scooby Squad in your house poking at something spiritually.
Yeah.
But it's true. It's really true. Yeah.
You wouldn't go to a doctor that got a degree from something that you see advertised on Facebook. So, you have to be careful with what investigators you choose because, hey, lots of them are straight up and reputable. Some of them,
not so much.
Not so much.
Yeah.
And because it's not a regulated body. So, there is a regulation.
It's all volunteer. It's a volunteer, right? It's a volunteering service, right? In a sense.
Voluntary or not, voluntary or not,
without accountability,
there's no certification for it.
There's no
licensing.
Accountability, but it's not just that. We want someone who knows what they're doing because I actually will rely on the evidence that they obtain. So I'm all for a paranormal team going in before we even do interviews. Say, okay, I know someone who can go in and get the preliminary, get the cameras and the audio, and to see what they pick up. But whatever evidence they do pick up, and it's done professionally, it's done right, that's the evidence I need to rely on. Keeyah needs to rely on, so we can make our own determination. Okay, yeah, there's something going on here as well. But if you get something that's just half-assed, when I went to Canadian Tire and bought a paranormal starter kit for $99.95, or using the phone as an app for an EVP, well, that's not the evidence I need to go in there and do what I got to do. Do you know what I mean? If a doctor sends you to a consultant, consults to another professional like a nephrologist or a pediatrician, that pediatrician is going to write a formal report saying, thank you for consulting this individual. I've assessed them, blah, blah, blah. This is what I found, and then sends it back to the family doctor. So, again, it works the same way. I need that paranormal team to come back to me and say, okay, we had done this. This is what we found. Here's the evidence. It's professionally done and respectfully done. And that's why we will use reputable teams. Anybody else is just going in for a thrill. That's not what we want.
And conversely, the paranormal investigators need to be careful, because if you're doing something wrong, if you hurt someone or you damage property and you don't have insurance,
you're liable. You're liable.
You're liable. You can get sued. So it works. It works two ways, right? So paranormal, and not just that, paranormal investigators. I've heard stories from paranormal investigators that were women that went in to do a preliminary interview by themselves. And
bad. Always have a buddy system.
Going into a stranger's house, you don't know the circumstances, and the person is actually, experiencing a psychotic break, right? Yeah. And so you're not the person that they should be dealing with, and certainly not alone. I've heard of women saying that, they were blocked in by someone that ended up being a psychiatric patient. And they realized once they got in the house and there was locks on all the doors inside, and, almost like it was terrifying. It sounded like something from a horror movie, but I thought, dear heavens, So can you imagine? But, investigators themselves have to be careful, and, not everybody thinks about that. You're volunteering, so you're doing it out of the goodness of your heart. But then if something happens and the people aren't happy, they can turn around and, you don't know. You have to be careful. You can get accused of stealing stuff and, breaking things, especially you're tromping around in the dark with a flashlight and then you knock over great grandma's vase and smash it into 1,000 pieces. Can you imagine?
Or great grandma was in the vase.
You break the urn and the ashes go everywhere.
That would not bode well.
Oh, that would just be so bad.
There was a time I used to...
Listen, ladies, I need to go to work because I have to pay my bills.
Yes.
But,
well, it has been over an hour.
If you guys want to carry on chatting away, I have no issue whatsoever. But I do need to get going.
I'm sure Kat's quite sick of us by now.
Never.
Well, sick or not, I need to go and get ready.
Okay.
I'm 6 to go to work. But if you guys want to carry on, I have no issue with that, and because I'm sure there's a lot you guys can talk about. And I appreciate Kat having us on.
Thank you, Archbishop. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll do more of this. Okay.
Yes, for sure.
There's a lot of specific topics that we want to talk about. We can pick a certain topic, maybe just focus on that. We can do that as well.
Do you have do you have time to do a quick prayer before you leave?
Certainly. Yeah, certainly. Well, in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, grant us, Lord, grace and peace. Thank you, Lord, for the opportunities that we have here to work through the Holy Spirit to help those that are listening and need to be who want to listen and need that guidance. Bless us, protect us from injury and disease and viruses. Protect us from all evil attacks. Protect us from all things, especially since we're doing your work. Grant us that blessing and protection, and keep us safe. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you.
All right.
Get to work.
Ladies, and we'll chat again because it's time to go and make some money.
Perfect. We'll chat soon.
Right.
Take care.
All right. Take care. Bye now.
Bye. Now it's just the ladies.
Yeah. Are your ears bleeding yet, dear?
No, not at all.
Okay. Both of us are both talkers, so it's just like,
Well, I've had...
wind us up and let us go for 4 hours,
I've had countless guests that say, I hope I didn't talk too much. It's like, well, no, this is why I wanted you on the show. If I have to pull teeth to get you to talk. That doesn't, it doesn't make a good guest. I want people who can talk.
The one word, yes, no,
yes, yeah,
maybe.
Right. Can you elaborate on that?
A lot tougher. That's
I'm
sure.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll call it here too as well.
Sounds good, girl. Sounds good.
The listeners know that I'll be adding links to the show notes, but could you tell us where people could find you and Archbishop Plato?
Facebook pages is probably the easiest place to find us. Plato's is just listed. You can't use titles on Facebook, so you can't use FR and SR in front of our names.
I did not know this. Huh.
Yeah, you can't put doctor in. You can't put any titles. So my Facebook is S, like for sister, and Keeyah Lynn Frances, I think I put my whole name in.
Yes.
And Plato's is Plato Angelakis. And he didn't try and put FR in it. He just gave up too. So, but probably Facebook is the easiest way. Because I'm not sure what his Twitter account is. I'm on Twitter at Oracles Do Exist. I check at the odd time, but Facebook is probably you'll get the fastest response.
Okay.
We do have a prayer group as well on Facebook. It's the Holy Order of what is I'm trying to think of the page name.
I'm on there too, and I can't remember.
Yeah, right. I'm totally having like a brain fart. The Holy Order of St. Michael the Archangel, I think, or the Blessed Order of, isn't that terrible? Oh my gosh, I don't even know my own prayer group anymore. I didn't go to sleep. I haven't slept in 3 nights. So something spiritual is messing with me. I need to cleanse the house. Something's bugging me. Even my son was like, was there something here? There's a huge cold spot. I'm like, yeah, there's something in the house hanging out with us.
Yeah.
But yeah, hook up on Facebook with us and you can get in touch with us there for sure. And we do try and get back to anyone that has questions for us. And that's probably the easiest way. And good luck to everybody out there navigating kind of the craziness that we're living through. And thank you very much for having us on, Kat. It's greatly appreciated, and it's nice to do something with a Canadian.
I know.
It's a nice change.
It is. Well, thank you so very much. I am so pleased that we're able to finally connect to get this done. We've had a few scheduling conflicts, and yes, it finally came together. Like
Life
I told you,
messy, right?
Yeah. Like I mentioned earlier, come hell or high water, this was going to happen.
Well, that's it, right? Exactly. We were prepped, and it was more exciting when I found out it wasn't visual. So I was like, great, I can just look like terrible, and it doesn't matter.
I don't have to do my hair and my makeup. You're welcome. Thanks again. We'll keep in touch.
Well, thank you so much again, Kat. I appreciate it very much for having us on, and God bless everyone
pleasure.
out there that's listening, and hang in there, and be good to each other.
Exactly.
Love each other. Love each other.
Send love.
Exactly.
Thank you.
All right. Night, Kat.
Well, we've made it to the end of another episode. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time, take care of each other. And if you'd like to be on the show or have questions and comments, just drop me an email, paranormalheart13@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you.
Paranormal Heart would like to extend a special thank you to PurplePlanet.com for supplying the music for the show. The views and opinions expressed on Paranormal Heart are those of the host and participants.